A little higher, a little higher. One sultry Saturday afternoon in the late 1990s, I'm on the prowl. So I decide to start at my local gay bar, which is just around the corner from me, and I walk in, and to my delight, there are a few possibilities scattered about. But what do? I sit next to the one impossibility, i.e., he's super hot and out of my league. Now, even in those days in my youth, I was never hot. I was always a cute comedic sidekick, but I never went hungry. I was like a cabaret singer who can't really sing, but manages to sell a song on sheer personality and enthusiasm. So this guy looked like a pint-sized George Clooney, the way George Clooney looked in those days when he was on ER. But better than that, he looked like college Chris. Chris was my schoolmate, and he slept with everybody, except for me. But I never asked, and I've regretted it ever since. So I sit next to this guy, and I order a martini, and he takes a long pull on the neck of his Rolling Rock beer, and he gives me a look, and I give my martini glass a rim job. And he says, "What are you up to?" And I say, "Oh, looking to get laid." I've always found the direct approach works best. And he said, "What's your wildest fantasy?" And I said, "I don't really have one, but you asked the question, so I bet you do. Come on, what is it?" He said, "Well, I was in junior high. I had a huge crush on my best friend, Jimmy, but everyone called him Little Jimmy because his father was Big Jimmy. So one day I go over to his house and I go through the kitchen like I always do, and his mom's there, and I said, 'Is Little Jimmy home?' And she said, 'He sure is. He's up in his bedroom. Why don't you go on up?' And I said, 'Thanks, I will.' So I go up the stairs. And while he's telling me this, he's not looking at me. He's looking just past me, his eyes glazed over in a Little Jimmy reverie. And I get to the top of the stairs, and there's his bedroom door, and it's cracked, and I push it open, and there's Little Jimmy. I said, 'What's he doing?' He's on his bed, and his bare butt's in the air, and his tighty-whitey Fruit of the Looms are bunched around his ankles, and he's humping the pillow. And I just stood there for a few seconds, and then I said, 'Little Jimmy.' And Little Jimmy slowly turned around, and he looked over his shoulder, and his face was beet red with embarrassment. And he said, 'Hey, buddy, you caught me.' I said, 'I sure did.' And I walk over to his bed, and I'm starting to get excited. I said, 'I'm starting to get excited.' I said, 'Let me guess. You want to reenact this little scenario?' He said, 'Yeah, buddy. Are you up for it?' I said, 'Yeah, I'm up for it. I'm Little Jimmy, right?' I said, 'Listen, you're in luck. I live just a block from here. And better than that, I live in a duplex apartment, so my bedroom's upstairs, so the fantasy is going to be that much more authentic.' I said, 'Give me a 5-minute head start.' I give him my address, I down that martini, and I race to my apartment. I live in a 5-floor walk-up, and I take those stairs 2 at a time. I am so pumped on adrenaline. I'm finally going to get college Chris with this super hot guy. And I get into the apartment, and I go upstairs, and I unmake the bed, and I put the humping pillow in place. And then I run downstairs, and I wait by the buzzer. I buzz him in. I run upstairs. I pull down my shorts and my tighty-whities, which I'll have you know are not Fruit of the Looms. They're Calvin Klein. And I hear him open the door. And I hear him close the door. And I hear him say hi to Little Jimmy's mother. And then I hear him say, 'Thanks, I'll go on up.' And I'm thinking, he really knows this script verbatim. And I hear him come up the stairs. And then I feel him at the top of the stairs looking at me. And after a few seconds, he says, 'Little Jimmy.' And I slowly turn and look over my shoulder, and my face is beet red, but not from embarrassment, from that martini I downed and those 5 flights of stairs I ran up. And I say, 'Hey, buddy, you caught me.' And he says, 'I sure did.' And he starts to walk over to the bed, and I can see he's excited. And I pull down his shorts and his tighty-whities, and out pops a beautiful kielbasa sausage. And I want to say, 'Hold the bun, mustard on the side.' And then he pulls up his tighty-whities and his shorts. And I said, 'What are you doing?' 'Thanks, buddy.' That's it. That's it? That's it? But I didn't say that. I was too stunned to speak. He said, yeah, you did great. And I want to say, then leave $100 on the dresser because I feel like a prostitute. And then he leaves, and I am draped over the humping pillow like a deflated, unused condom. And I hear him go down the stairs, and I hear him open the door, and I hear him close the door, but I don't hear him say goodbye to little Jimmy's mother, which I think is rude. And then it hits me, he's done this before, and I wonder how many other little Jimmy victims are out there. I want to find him and start a support group. And what about me? I thought I was finally going to get College Chris. But I didn't ask for that, did I? And I learned a very important lesson that afternoon. Never be afraid to ask for exactly what you want. And you know what? A couple of years later, I went to my 10-year college reunion. College Chris was there. I asked him for what I wanted, and I got it. Thank you.
That's Jamie Brickhouse, everybody.